Hello everyone, Canadian Dissident here, back with another video. We got a lot of stuff to cover today, so let's just jump right into it. Start with some good news, because it's going to go downhill pretty quick from here. But basically, Trudeau is still running away from the Freedom Convoy. He had an event planned at a brewery that was canceled because some protesters showed up. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's day of whistle stops in the Ottawa area ended early Friday as anti-Liberal protesters gathered outside a brewery before he arrived. Following uneventful stops in Gatineau Park in Quebec and two Ottawa suburbs earlier in the day, Trudeau was on his way to the brewery in Embrun, Ontario, about 30 minutes east of Ottawa. The event was called off before he arrived. About a dozen protesters gathered across the street from the brewery, including one who was carrying a flag emblazoned with a profanity directed at Trudeau. I think we know what that flag looks like. And another who was recording the establishment on the phone. So Trudeau is still running away from Freedom Convoy protesters. He knows how bad it makes him look, how horrible the whole ordeal was, the Emergency Measures Act, all that stuff. So he's still running. That's some good news. And now the not so good news starts. Here's a story about a Canadian court ruling that it was legal to deny an unvaccinated person an organ transplant. A judge in the Canadian province of Alberta has ruled that a woman did not have her rights violated when she was denied an organ transplant due to not being vaccinated against the Wuhan coronavirus. And Alberta is basically Canada's most conservative province. A justice ruled that the Edmonton, Alberta woman, Annette Lewis, did not have her Charter of Rights and Freedoms violated by being denied an organ transplant over her vaccination status. According to Justice Belzile, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms has no bearing on the treatment decisions of doctors for organ transplants, despite the transplant being diagnosed by medical professionals as the only way for Miss Lewis to survive a progressive disease she suffers from. This is crazy. But like I've said before, people don't have rights in Canada. A lot of people don't understand that. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms doesn't give you rights. They are privileges. They can all be taken away under the right circumstances. And unfortunately, a pandemic is one of those circumstances. And the list of circumstances, I think, is growing rapidly. There's a little story in the middle here. Canadian father loses custody of children over vaccination status. I think I covered that in a previous video, actually. That's pretty old. But yeah, so this is still going on. Apparently, it's okay to deny people organ transplants based on their previous medical decisions. Continuing on from there, we've got some other stuff going on here. It seems like COVID is kind of making a comeback. There's a lot of restrictions that are returning, not just in Canada, across the planet. The government of Canada is reestablishing mandatory random testing off-site of airports for air travelers. So again, Canadian airports are already an absolute embarrassment, but they're keeping all this stuff. This was only gone for a short time. I think they only dropped it for like a month, and now it's back. And we haven't even hit fall yet. So here's another article about a baseball player. I don't really follow baseball that much, but I heard about this story. Apparently, the Philadelphia Phillies are playing a series in Toronto, and so they have to cross over, and Canada is still saying that you can't enter the country if you're not vaccinated. So this one player apparently says it's not worth it. He won't be playing. I think he's losing like $500,000 or something because of that decision too. Okay, so here from outside of Canada, we've got New Zealand imposing new COVID measures as cases soar. What else? We've got CNN reporting that COVID-19 public health emergency has been extended in the U.S. This is what I'm saying, guys. This stuff is coming back. It's not going away. Los Angeles signals return to mask mandates. Ignores evidence that they don't work. Yeah, we've always known that the masks don't work, but it doesn't matter. The masks aren't about stopping COVID. It's just about enforcement. CNN again telling us the worst variant is here. This BA5, I think it's called. It seems like most normal people don't really care about COVID anymore. But mainstream media is still drumming up fear. And I think a lot of it is just in preparation, pumping this stuff out still so that when everything comes back full swing in fall, it didn't come completely out of nowhere. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is a couple hilariously idiotic things from the mouth of Jagmeet Singh, who is the NDP leader, New Democrat Party leader in Canada. But for those of you who don't know, I just wanted to give you a brief kind of description of how Canadian politics work. So there's a lot more parties in Canada. And so what can happen is you can end up with a minority government. And basically what that means, it's saying right here, 170 seats to a majority. And what that means is if that party reaches over that threshold, even if all the other parties align against them, they don't have enough power to overthrow whatever decisions they make. And so what it means if they have less than that is if they wanted to get something through and all the other parties vote against whatever it is they're trying to push through, then they would lose because they have less seats than the rest of the parties combined. And so basically, if you have a minority government, you have to get support from one of the other parties to get enough seats to push your bill through or whatever it is. So, and I'd like to note here too that 32.6% I think is the lowest percentage ever that a government has gotten. Conservatives won the popular vote, but that doesn't really matter. They have significantly less seats because of how the seating layout works in Canada. But here we go. Let's jump into these tweets. So Jagmeet Singh saying on Twitter, while the price of goods grow at alarming rates, wages have only increased by 3.9%. The Liberal government has failed to support everyday Canadians with immediate action. Yet, it continues to help billionaires get even richer as they avoid paying their taxes. It's shameful. Well, what's important to note is that Jagmeet Singh has basically made a coalition government with the Liberals. He just agrees with every single thing they say, push every single bill through. Here's another one. This is from literally 20 minutes ago. He's saying the same kind of stuff. Under this Liberal government, rising costs have hit an almost 40-year high. But it isn't the wages of hardworking people that are driving inflation. It's corporate greed. The ultra-rich jacking up prices to make record profits. Again, he's bashing the liberal government, which he is essentially a part of. His government has basically formed a coalition. They've made a deal to essentially agree with the Liberals on absolutely everything in order to push through a couple things, one of which is like a universal dental plan, I think. So they've made a deal where essentially they'll just agree with them on everything. This is just a prime example of how idiotic the people who vote for this guy are. And I've seen them in real life too. Trudeau gets a lot of hate up here. He does have some supporters, but there are a lot of people who hate him, but are still on the left. And so they do their good leftist duty and they vote for a left-wing party. None of them will vote conservative. They just refuse. Doesn't matter what he's saying. Doesn't matter who the leader is. So they end up voting for Jagmeet because they don't like Trudeau. They're too stupid. They don't even pay attention to politics. They don't see that this guy is just siding with the guy that they hate on everything. But that's why Jagmeet can put out tweets like this and all his little supporters see them and, oh yeah, he's fighting the Liberal government. He's literally not. He's supporting them 100%. If he wanted to fight, he could call a vote of no confidence. But of course he'll never do that because the way things are going right now, the Conservatives would absolutely crush both parties if there was an election now. Absolutely crush them. They've been doing such a poor job, such a horrible job up here. The shutting down of the Freedom Convoy was an eye-opener for some people, for sure. A lot of people don't think Trudeau was justified in that. And by the way, it was Jagmeet and his party who agreed with the Liberals to push that through so that they could invoke the Emergencies Act, shut this down. So yeah, this guy's supporters are so stupid. They can see tweets like that and they don't care. They still support him. They think he's in opposition to Trudeau when he's literally exactly the same, doing all the same stuff. So yeah, in everything but name, as this article says, there's a coalition government, which basically means they've joined up, they've formed a government together, and they just push everything through as if they had a majority. So the Liberals got the smallest percentage of vote in history for a government, and yet they essentially have a majority. Okay, and one more thing I wanted to get in here. Tamara Lich was recently denied bail and was ordered to be detained until trial. So I mentioned in my previous video that she was picked up by police and she was being held, conveniently just overlapping with the return of the Freedom Convoy, sort of on Canada Day, where there were large protests. Well, now she's being denied bail. She's held in jail until her next court date, which I think is on the 14th. So Lich is facing multiple charges of mischief and obstructing police for her role in the massive protest that gridlocked downtown Ottawa for more than 3 weeks. She's charged on mischief, and they're doing Canada-wide warrants. They're denying her bail for mischief. Meanwhile, we let murderers out up here in Canada. So now she's facing an additional charge of breaching a bail condition, which I talked about in my previous video, after sitting with fellow protest leader Tom Marazzo at an awards gala in Toronto last month. So I showed that photo, I think, in my previous video. And so here basically, Harris noted that Lich was given permission to attend the award ceremony. She was given permission to be there. That permission did not envision her sitting at a table with Marazzo and posing for a photo with him afterward. He called her actions and attendance problematic. She was given permission to be there. Crazy. This is a political prisoner. That's all it is. That's what we have up here in Canada. Dictator Trudeau, keeping anyone who disagrees with him a prisoner, freezing bank accounts. It's crazy. It's crazy. Canada is not a free country. Well, that's all I have for today. Lots of bad news, unfortunately. It certainly seems like COVID is making a comeback. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are all these restrictions going to be back in the fall? Are they going to be back before that? Or are they not? Am I wrong? Are they not coming back? Restrictions are gone. Am I reading this stuff wrong? Please let me know in the comments. Well, that's it for me. Canadian Dissident out.